Jade's hands trembled as she clutched the envelope hidden beneath her apron. The marble floor of the Conti mansion seemed to stretch endlessly before her, each step echoing her racing heartbeat. She had worked here for 3 months without incident, invisible among the other staff exactly as she needed to be, until today. "Stop right there." His voice cut through the silence like a blade. She froze at the service door, her spine stiffening. Maximus Conti stood at the top of the grand staircase, his presence commanding the entire foyer. The afternoon light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows cast shadows across his sharp features, making him look even more dangerous than usual. "Turn around," he commanded, descending the stairs with predatory grace. Jade slowly turned, keeping her eyes lowered as she'd been trained. Her fingers tightened around the envelope in her pocket. He couldn't know. He couldn't possibly know. "Look at me." She raised her eyes reluctantly, meeting his intense, dark gaze. In that moment, everything she'd been hiding, everything she'd sacrificed to be here, felt exposed under his scrutiny. "Did you think I wouldn't find out?" His voice was deadly calm as he reached the bottom step, towering over her. "Did you think I wouldn't discover what you've been doing in my home?" Her heart stopped. After everything she'd endured to get this job, after every humiliation she'd swallowed to stay invisible, it was over. And what terrified her most wasn't losing the job. It was what would happen when he learned the truth about why she really needed it. If you want to discover how this story began and what happens after this moment, subscribe to the channel and leave in the comments where you're watching from. Each view helps bring more stories like this one. 3 months earlier, Jade Freeman had stood in the unemployment office for the 4th time that week. Her nursing scrubs wrinkled from another double shift at the community clinic that had just cut her hours. Again. "I'm sorry, Miss Freeman," the clerk had said, without looking up. "There's nothing in your field right now. Have you considered hospitality, housekeeping?" Jade had swallowed her pride, what was left of it. She had a master's degree in nursing, spoke 3 languages, and had worked in one of Philadelphia's top hospitals before the lawsuit, before everything fell apart. "Yes," she'd whispered. "I'll take anything." That's how she found herself 2 weeks later, standing in the service entrance of the Conti estate in the wealthy suburbs, wearing a black uniform that cost more than her monthly rent. "You don't speak unless spoken to," the head housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, instructed sharply. "You don't make eye contact with Mr. Conti or his associates. You don't ask questions. You clean what you're told to clean and you become invisible. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." The last girl didn't follow these rules. She lasted 2 days. "Mrs." Chen's eyes narrowed. "Mr. Conti doesn't tolerate mistakes, gossip, or incompetence. This isn't a regular household. Do you understand what I'm saying?" Jade understood perfectly. Everyone in Philadelphia knew who Maximus Conti was, the youngest Don to control the East Coast operations, ruthless in business, untouchable by law enforcement, and absolutely terrifying to anyone who crossed him. She also knew she was desperate enough not to care. Her first 2 months passed in a blur of marble floors and priceless artwork. She cleaned guest rooms that were larger than her entire apartment, dusted sculptures worth more than she'd earn in a lifetime, and perfected the art of disappearing into the background. She never saw Maximus Conti. Not once. The other staff whispered about him. His late-night meetings, the black SUVs that arrived at all hours, the way he could silence a room with a single look. But he traveled constantly, and when he was home, he kept to his private wing. Until the night, everything changed. Jade was finishing her evening rounds, checking that all the guest rooms were pristine for an upcoming meeting. She pushed open the door to the study on the 2nd floor, expecting it to be empty as usual. It wasn't. Maximus Conti sat behind an enormous mahogany desk, his suit jacket draped over the chair, shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal tanned forearms marked with ink. He was on the phone speaking rapid Italian, his voice low and lethal. Jade's breath caught. She'd seen photographs, everyone had, but they didn't capture the raw power that radiated from him. He was devastatingly handsome in a dangerous way, all sharp angles and controlled strength. Dark hair perfectly styled, a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes that missed nothing. Those eyes locked on her. She should have apologized and left immediately. Instead, she stood frozen, her mind blanking on every protocol Mrs. Chen had drilled into her. He ended his call without breaking eye contact, setting the phone down with deliberate slowness. "You're new." It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. I apologize. I didn't know." "What's your name?" "Jade Freeman, sir." He leaned back in his chair, studying her with an intensity that made her skin heat. "How long have you worked here, Jade Freeman?" 2 months, sir." "And in 2 months no one taught you to knock?" "I was told this room was never occupied at this hour, sir. It won't happen again." She took a step backward toward the door. "Stop." She froze. He stood, buttoning his cuffs with practiced precision, then walked around the desk. He moved like a predator, graceful, controlled, absolutely confident in his dominance. When he stopped in front of her, she had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. "You're afraid," he observed. "No, sir." "Liar." But there was something almost amused in his tone. "Everyone who works for me is afraid. It's smart to be afraid. What I want to know is why you're here at all." "I need the job, sir." "There are other jobs, easier jobs, less complicated." He circled her slowly, and she forced herself to remain still. "You're overqualified for housekeeping. I can tell by the way you carry yourself, by the way you speak. So why are you cleaning my floors, Jade Freeman?" Her heart hammered. "Everyone needs work, sir." "True." He stopped in front of her again, closer this time, close enough that she could smell his cologne, expensive, subtle, intoxicating. "But not everyone is running from something. The question is, what are you running from?" Before she could answer, his phone buzzed urgently. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor shifted, the brief curiosity replaced by cold focus. "Get out," he said quietly. "And Jade, next time you walk through a door in my house, you knock first." "Yes, sir." She fled, her pulse racing, his words echoing in her mind. "What are you running from?" "Everything," she thought. "I'm running from everything." After that night, Jade became hyper-aware of Maximus Conti's presence in the house. She learned his patterns. When he took his morning coffee in the East Terrace, when he held his meetings in the formal dining room, when he worked late in his study. And she made absolutely certain to never cross his path again. But fate, or perhaps something darker, had other plans. It started with small things. Mrs. Chen assigning her to clean the private wing, the head of security asking her name when she passed through the halls, the way she'd catch glimpses of Maximus watching her from across rooms, his expression unreadable. Then came the envelope. Jade had been cleaning one of the guest suites when she found it, tucked behind a decorative pillow, sealed but with her name written across it in elegant script. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper with an address in West Philadelphia. Her old address, the apartment where her younger brother Marcus lived alone, while she worked 3 jobs to pay his college tuition and keep him safe from the streets that had already claimed too many young black men in their neighborhood. Beneath the address, a single line. "I know why you're really here." Terror shot through her. She'd been so careful. She'd never mentioned her family, never gave anyone her real background, never explained why she needed this specific job at this specific estate. Because Maximus Conti's organization controlled the territory where her brother lived, where Marcus had witnessed something 3 months ago, something that could get him killed if the wrong people knew. She'd taken this job to get close enough to the organization's records, to find out who was targeting her brother, to protect the only family she had left, and someone knew. "Miss Freeman." The voice behind her made her jump. She spun to find Maximus standing in the doorway, his presence filling the room. He'd removed his suit jacket again, and in the afternoon light, she could see the tattoo that disappeared beneath his collar, intricate script in Italian that probably held meaning she'd never know. "Mr. Conti, I was just... You found it." He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The click of the lock made her pulse spike. "I don't know what this is," she lied, crumpling the paper in her fist. "Yes, you do." He moved closer, and she backed up instinctively until her spine hit the wall. He stopped inches away, one hand bracing against the wall beside her head. "You've been going through files in my study, very carefully, very cleverly, but not carefully enough." Her breath came in short gasps. "Please, I could have you arrested or worse." His voice was soft, almost conversational. Industrial espionage. Breach of trust. In my world, people disappear for less. My brother. The words escaped before she could stop them. Marcus Freeman, 20 years old, pre-med at Temple University, lives alone in West Philly. Maximus recited the facts like he was reading a dossier, because he probably was. Witnessed one of my competitors' operations 3 months ago. Now they want to make sure he doesn't talk. Tears burned her eyes. Please don't hurt him. He didn't see anything important. He doesn't know anything. I'm not going to hurt him, Jade. His free hand came up, his thumb catching a tear before it could fall. The gentleness of the gesture contrasted sharply with the intensity in his eyes. I'm going to protect him. She stared at him, not understanding. You think I don't know what happens in my own territory? You think I don't know when rival families start targeting civilians? He stepped back, giving her space to breathe. I've had people watching your brother since the incident. Making sure he stays safe, making sure no one touches him. Why? Because innocents don't deserve to die for being in the wrong place. He pulled out his phone, showing her surveillance photos. Marcus leaving class, Marcus at the library, Marcus safe. And because the moment you walked into my study 2 weeks ago, I knew you weren't just a housekeeper. Jade's legs felt weak. You knew this whole time? I know everything that happens under my roof. He pocketed his phone. What I didn't know was whether you were a spy for my enemies or a desperate sister trying to save her brother. Now I know. Are you going to fire me? No. He moved to the window, his profile sharp against the light. I'm going to offer you a deal. Her heart hammered. What kind of deal? The men after your brother work for the Castellano family. They're trying to expand into my territory, using fear and violence to push out the existing residents. Your brother witnessed one of their intimidation tactics. He turned back to her. I've been planning to eliminate their operation for months, but I need proof of their activities, proof that won't trace back to me. You want me to spy for you? I want you to help me protect your brother and everyone else in that neighborhood. His gaze held hers. You have access to places my people don't. You can move without suspicion, and you're clearly intelligent enough to have infiltrated my home without anyone noticing. Until you noticed. I notice everything, Jade. The way he said her name sent shivers down her spine, especially things that don't belong. She should refuse, should run, should get as far from this dangerous man and his dangerous world as possible. But Marcus's life depended on her next words. What do you need me to do? Maximus smiled, a real smile that transformed his face from intimidating to absolutely stunning. First, you're going to tell me everything you know. Then, we're going to make sure your brother lives to see his graduation. He extended his hand. Jade looked at it, strong, scarred, bearing a platinum ring that probably cost more than her car. This was a deal with the devil. She knew it. He knew it. She took his hand anyway. One more thing, he said, his grip warm and firm. From now on, you work directly for me. Not Mrs. Chen, not the household staff, me. Which means you follow my rules, my orders, and you trust that I will keep you and your brother safe. And if I can't trust you, his expression darkened, then we're both already dead. The next 2 weeks transformed Jade's life in ways she never imagined. She was moved from the staff quarters to a guest room in the main house. For security, Maximus claimed. She attended his private meetings, taking notes that seemed innocuous but contained coded information. She learned the names of his associates, the structure of his organization, the delicate balance of power that kept the city from descending into all-out war. And she learned about the man behind the reputation. Maximus Conti wasn't just a ruthless crime boss. He was a strategist who'd inherited his father's empire at 25 and turned it into something more sophisticated, more powerful. He funded scholarships for kids in poor neighborhoods. He kept drugs out of schools. He settled disputes before they became bloodbaths. He was still dangerous, still capable of violence when necessary. But he operated by a code that surprised her. You're staring, he said one evening as they reviewed surveillance photos in his study. Jade jerked her attention back to the documents. Sorry. Don't apologize. Just tell me what you're thinking. I'm thinking you're not what I expected. What did you expect? A monster. He leaned back in his chair, studying her with those intense dark eyes. Maybe. Monsters don't last long in this world. They make too many enemies. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Expensive, smooth, nothing like the cheap liquor she'd grown up around. He slid one across the desk to her. To survive, you have to be smart, strategic, and occasionally merciful. Is that what you're being with me? Merciful. No. He lifted his glass. With you, I'm being selfish. Her pulse quickened. What does that mean? Instead of answering, he stood and walked to the window overlooking the estate's grounds. The evening light cast shadows across his features, highlighting the sharp line of his jaw, the strength in his shoulders. My father was killed when I was 25, he said quietly. Ambushed by rivals who thought a young, inexperienced heir would be easy to eliminate. They were wrong. Jade stood, moving closer despite every instinct telling her to keep her distance. What happened? I spent 6 months hunting every person involved, not in rage, not in grief, in cold, calculated vengeance. He turned to face her. By the time I was done, 3 rival families had been dismantled, and everyone knew that the Conti name meant consequences. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand who I am, Jade, what I'm capable of. He stepped closer and she felt the heat radiating from him. When I say, I'll protect your brother, I mean it. When I say I'll eliminate the Castellanos, it's already done in my mind. I'm just executing the plan. And when I say you're under my protection, I mean no one touches you without answering to me. I'm not asking for protection. I'm asking for my brother's safety. You can't separate the two anymore. His hand came up, his fingers brushing her cheek with unexpected gentleness. The moment you made that deal with me, you became mine to protect. I don't belong to anyone. I didn't say you belong to me. I said you're under my protection. There's a difference. His thumb traced her jawline, sending electricity through her. But if I'm being honest, Jade, I'm starting to wish there wasn't. She should step back, should remind him and herself of every reason this was impossible. The power imbalance, the danger, the fact that he was a criminal and she was, what? A desperate woman who'd compromised everything she believed in to save her brother. But when he leaned closer, when his breath ghosted across her lips, she didn't move. Tell me to stop, he murmured. I can't. The kiss was inevitable. Soft at first, testing, giving her every chance to pull away. When she didn't, when her hands came up to grip his shirt, he deepened it with a hunger that stole her breath. He kissed like he did everything else, with complete confidence and devastating skill. His hands cupped her face, holding her like she was something precious, even as his mouth claimed hers with possession. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. This is a mistake, she whispered. Probably. He didn't sound convinced. But I stopped pretending I could stay away from you. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed urgently. He pulled away, checking the message, and his entire demeanor changed. What is it? The Castellanos just made a move. They've sent people to your brother's building. His fingers flew across his phone, sending rapid commands. I have men there, but I'm coming with you. Jade, he's my brother. She grabbed her jacket. I'm coming with you. For a moment she thought he'd refuse. Then he nodded sharply. Stay close to me. Do exactly what I say. And if shooting starts, you hit the ground immediately. Understood? Understood. They moved through the house like shadows, his men materializing from nowhere to surround them. The garage held a fleet of vehicles, but Maximus headed straight for an armored black SUV. Drive, he commanded one of his men, sliding into the back seat with Jade. As they sped through the night toward West Philadelphia, toward her brother and whatever danger awaited, Maximus took her hand. I won't let anything happen to him, he promised. Or to you. Jade squeezed his fingers, praying he was right, because she'd just realized that somewhere in the past 2 weeks she'd started falling for the most dangerous man in Philadelphia. And there was no going back now. The streets of West Philadelphia blurred past as their convoy of 3 SUVs raced through traffic. Jade's heart hammered against her ribs, her hand still clasped in Maximus's. His jaw was set, his free hand resting on his phone as updates came through. "Victor's team is in position," he said, his voice deadly calm despite the tension in his shoulders. "They've secured the building perimeter. The Castellanos have 6 men inside. Is Marcus safe?" "He's barricaded in his apartment. My people are with him." He squeezed her hand. "But we need to end this tonight." The SUV screeched to a halt 2 blocks from Marcus's building. Through the tinted windows, Jade could see the familiar brick structure where she'd grown up, where their mother had raised them alone after their father left. It looked the same as always, worn, tired, but home. Now it was a battlefield. "You stay in the car," Maximus ordered, already moving. "Like hell He turned, gripping her shoulders. "Listen to me. Those men in there will use you against me if they see you. They'll hurt you to hurt me. I need you safe so I can focus on getting your brother out. Please." The desperation in his eyes, so unlike his usual controlled demeanor, made her nod. "Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone except me or Victor." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "I'll bring him to you." Then he was gone, moving with his men toward the building with lethal precision. Jade watched through the window, her nails digging into her palms. She could see flashes of movement, Maximus's men taking positions, shadows crossing windows on the 3rd floor where Marcus lived. Then gunfire shattered the night. She screamed, lunging for the door, but it was locked from the outside. Through the chaos, she saw Maximus disappear into the building, and terror unlike anything she'd ever known seized her chest. Minutes felt like hours. More shots, shouting in Italian and English. Then silence. Horrible, stretching silence. The driver's door opened, and she nearly sobbed with relief when Victor, Maximus's second-in-command, slid into the driver's seat. "Is he?" "Boss is fine. He's bringing your brother down now." Victor's weathered face showed grudging respect. "That man just took down 4 armed Castellanos by himself to get to your brother's door. Never seen anything like it." Before Jade could process that, the rear door opened and Marcus practically fell into the vehicle. "Jay, what the hell is going on? Who are these people? Why are there men with guns?" "You're safe." She pulled him into a fierce hug, checking him for injuries even as tears streamed down her face. "You're safe. That's all that matters." "The man who pulled me out, he said—" Marcus's eyes widened as Maximus appeared at the door, blood on his knuckles but otherwise unharmed. "Everyone inside was neutralized," he reported to Victor. "Get them back to the estate. I need to handle the cleanup." "You're hurt." Jade noticed the blood. "Not mine." He caught her gaze. "Your brother's safe. That's what matters." "Thank you," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "I don't know who you are, but thank you for—" "You're Jade's brother. That makes you family." Maximus's expression softened slightly. "And I protect family." Before Jade could respond, another SUV pulled up and men piled out. Clean-up crew, she realized, making evidence disappear, making sure no one would ever know what really happened here tonight. "Go," Maximus told Victor. "I'll meet you back at the house." "Boss, go." It was an order. As they pulled away, Jade twisted in her seat, watching Maximus coordinate his men with calm efficiency, like this was just another Tuesday night, like he hadn't just saved her brother's life and possibly killed multiple people to do it. "Jay," Marcus's voice was small, frightened. "What have you gotten involved in?" She turned to face her little brother, except he wasn't little anymore. At 20, he was taller than her, with their father's eyes and their mother's gentle heart. He deserved better than this world of violence and blood money. "I did what I had to do to keep you alive," she said simply. "By working for the Mafia." His voice cracked. "Do you know what people say about Maximus Conti? He's killed—" "He saved your life tonight, after you put it in danger by working for him." Victor's voice cut through their argument. "Your sister took a job cleaning houses to protect you. She risked everything, her career, her freedom, her life, because she loves you. Show some respect." Marcus fell silent, staring at Jade with dawning horror. "The nursing job, you said you were still working at the clinic. You lied." "I was fired 3 months ago, after the lawsuit. No hospital would hire me." She'd never told him about the malpractice case, a patient's death that wasn't her fault, but destroyed her career anyway. I took work wherever I could find it, and when I learned you were in danger, I found work that could help me protect you. By becoming a mob boss's, his maid, his spy, by becoming whatever I needed to be. They drove the rest of the way in tense silence. When they arrived at the Conti estate, Marcus's eyes widened at the mansion, the gates, the obvious wealth and power. Jesus Christ, Jay, what have you done? Mrs. Chen appeared to escort Marcus to a guest room, but he refused to let go of Jade's hand. I'm not letting you out of my sight, he said stubbornly. Not until I understand what's happening. Jade was about to argue when Maximus's voice echoed through the foyer. Then you'll be waiting a while. He strode in, having changed clothes and cleaned the blood from his hands. In fresh, dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, he looked every inch the powerful businessman, rather than the man who'd just orchestrated a violent raid. Your sister made a deal to save your life, Maximus addressed Marcus directly. She's been providing me with intelligence on the Castellano family's operations. In exchange, I've provided protection for both of you. You used her, Marcus accused. I gave her a choice. She made it. Maximus's gaze shifted to Jade. But the situation has changed. The Castellanos will retaliate. Which means neither of you is safe outside this estate. You can't keep us prisoner, Jade protested. I can keep you alive. He moved closer, his presence commanding the room. The men I killed tonight, they'll be missed. Questions will be asked. And when the Castellano family realizes who was behind the raid, they'll come for you. So what are you saying? I'm saying you both stay here, under my protection, until I eliminate the threat completely. Marcus's laugh was bitter. So we're prisoners with extra steps. You're guests in my home. There's a difference. Maximus's tone hardened. You're also alive, which you wouldn't be if I hadn't intervened. A little gratitude wouldn't be misplaced. Marcus, Jade warned, but her brother wasn't finished. My sister has a master's degree. She worked her entire life to become a nurse. She saved lives. And now she's trapped in some mobster's mansion because she was desperate enough to— Your sister, Maximus interrupted coldly, is the bravest person I've ever met. She walked into danger without hesitation to protect you. She compromised everything she believed in because she loves you. And right now you're repaying that sacrifice by acting like a spoiled child. The silence that followed was deafening. Marcus's face flushed, but he didn't back down. If she's so brave, let her make her own choices. Let her leave if she wants. Maximus turned to Jade, his expression unreadable. Do you want to leave? Every rational part of her brain screamed yes. She should take Marcus and run, should disappear into witness protection or move to another state, or do anything except stay in the orbit of this dangerous, intoxicating man. But she thought about the kiss in his study, the way he'd risked his life tonight without hesitation, the gentleness in his eyes when he looked at her, despite the violence he was capable of. No, she whispered. I don't want to leave. Marcus made a sound of disbelief, but Maximus's eyes blazed with something fierce and possessive. Then it settled. He nodded to Mrs. Chen. Show Mr. Freeman to the East Wing. He'll stay there until further notice. As Marcus was led away, still protesting, Jade found herself alone with Maximus in the vast foyer. He's right to hate me, Maximus said quietly. I've pulled you into a world you should never have touched. I walked into this world myself, because I didn't give you better options. He cupped her face, his thumb stroking her cheek. Jade, what happened tonight? It's just the beginning. The Castellanos won't stop until they've made an example of everyone involved, which means you're in more danger than ever. I'm not afraid. You should be. His voice dropped. Because I just realized something tonight. When I saw those men in your brother's building, when I thought about them hurting you to get to him, I wasn't thinking like a strategist. I was thinking like a man who'd burn the entire city down to keep you safe. Her breath caught. Maximus, you've become my weakness, Jade Freeman. And in my world, weaknesses get you killed. Then stop caring about me. I wish I could. He pressed his forehead to hers. But it's too late for that. The words hung between them, a confession and a warning all at once. "What happens now?" she whispered. "Now I end this war before it costs me everything that matters." He kissed her then, hard and desperate, like he was memorizing the taste of her. When he pulled away, his eyes held a promise that was both protection and possession. "No one touches you," he said softly. "No one threatens you. And anyone who tries will learn exactly why people fear the Conti name." The next 72 hours passed in a blur of tension and preparation. Maximus's estate became a fortress. Additional security, surveillance upgraded. Every person who entered, scrutinized and searched. Marcus barely spoke to Jade, spending his time in the library avoiding everyone. But the real war was being waged in shadows. Jade watched Maximus coordinate his response with terrifying efficiency. Phone calls in rapid Italian, meetings with men whose names she didn't know and faces she tried not to remember. He was orchestrating something massive, and she wasn't sure she wanted to know the details. On the third night, he found her in the garden after midnight. She'd been unable to sleep, haunted by images of violence and blood. Couldn't rest? He appeared beside her on the stone bench, 2 glasses of wine in hand. Too much adrenaline. She accepted the glass gratefully. "How do you do this? Live like this every day?" "You get used to the adrenaline. It's the quiet moments that are dangerous." "Why?" "Because that's when you remember what you've done, who you've hurt." He stared out at the darkened grounds. "That's when the ghosts come." Jade studied his profile, the strong jaw, the shadows under his eyes, the weight he carried without complaint. "Do you have a lot of ghosts?" "More than I can count." He turned to her. "But none of them haunt me like the thought of losing you. You barely know me. I know you worked 3 jobs to put your brother through college. I know you lost your nursing career defending a colleague who'd made a mistake. I know you walked into my world without weapons or protection because love made you brave." His hand found hers. "I know enough." "This can't work, Maximus. You know that." "Why not?" "Because you're—" She gestured helplessly at the mansion, the guards, the empire he controlled. "And I'm just—" "You're just the woman who made me believe in something besides power and fear." He pulled her closer. "You're just the only person who looks at me and sees something worth saving. I never said you needed saving. Maybe that's why I'm falling in love with you." The words hit her like a physical blow. She'd been avoiding the truth of what was happening between them, hiding behind practicality and fear. But hearing him say it out loud with such raw honesty shattered her defenses. "You can't love me," she whispered. "It's too dangerous." "Jade, I've faced death 100 times without flinching. I've built an empire on fear and blood. But the thought of you walking away terrifies me more than any bullet." He set down his wine, taking both her hands. "I'm not asking you to love me back. I'm just asking you to give this us a chance. And if your enemies use me against you, then they'll learn that touching you is a death sentence." "That's not romantic, Maximus. That's terrifying." "I never promised you romance. I promised you protection, honesty, and a man who would move heaven and hell to keep you safe." His grip tightened. "Is that enough?" Jade thought about her old life. The long shifts, the endless worry, the constant fear that Marcus would end up another statistic. She thought about the moment she'd walked into this world, desperate and alone. Then she thought about the way Maximus looked at her like she was precious, the way he'd risked everything to save Marcus, the way he kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. "It's enough," she breathed. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might disappear. "I need to tell you something. Tomorrow night I'm ending this with the Castellanos, permanently." Her blood ran cold. "What does that mean?" "It means I've spent the last 3 days setting a trap. They think they're coming to negotiate territory. Instead, they're walking into their own execution." "Maximus, no!" "It's the only way to ensure your safety and Marcus's." His hand cupped her face. "I won't live in fear that they'll hurt you to hurt me. So I'm removing the threat. People will die. People who were already dead the moment they threatened my family." His eyes were hard, remorseless. "This is who I am, Jade. This is what I do. If you can't accept that, I accept it." The words surprised her, but she realized they were true. She'd seen enough of his world to understand the rules. In this life, hesitation meant death. I just don't want to lose you." "You won't." He pressed his lips to her forehead. "I've been doing this since I was 25. I know how to survive. Promise me you'll come back." "I promise." He tilted her face up, capturing her mouth in a kiss that tasted like desperation and devotion. "And when I do, we're going to talk about our future, about what comes next for us. What do you want to come next?" "Everything." His thumb traced her lower lip. "I want you in my bed every night. I want to wake up to your face every morning. I want Marcus to forgive us both and finish his degree. I want to build something legitimate so our children don't grow up in violence." "Children," her heart stuttered. "Eventually, if you want them." He smiled, a real, genuine smile that transformed his face. "I'm getting ahead of myself. First, I need to survive tomorrow night." "That's not funny." "I'm not joking." He pulled her close again, and they sat in the darkness, holding each other like it might be the last time. The next evening, Jade watched from Maximus's study as he prepared to leave. He'd changed into all black, tactical gear hidden under an expensive suit jacket. His men assembled in the foyer, armed and ready. "Stay with Victor," he instructed. "If anything goes wrong, nothing will go wrong." "If it does," he continued firmly, "Victor knows what to do. He'll get you and Marcus somewhere safe. I'm not leaving without you. You'll do what I tell you to keep yourself alive." His kiss was fierce, claiming, "I love you, Jade Freeman. Remember that." Then he was gone, taking half his men with him. The remaining guards secured the estate, and Victor stationed himself outside the study door. Jade tried to work, to distract herself with anything but the images playing through her mind. What was happening out there? Was he safe? Would he keep his promise and come back? Hours crawled by. Midnight came and went. Then 1 a.m., 2 a.m. At 2:47 a.m., gunfire erupted in the distance, sharp cracks that echoed through the night. Jade ran to the window, but saw only darkness. "Stay away from the windows," Victor commanded, pulling her back. More gunfire, closer this time. Then silence. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "It's done. Coming home." Relief nearly brought her to her knees, but before she could respond, the estate's alarm system screamed to life. "We've got a breach," Victor barked into his radio. "East perimeter, multiple hostiles." "What? How?" Maximus said it was over. "It's a second team. They split their forces." Victor grabbed her arm. "We need to move. Now." They ran through the mansion, Victor's men forming a protective wall around her. Behind them, Jade heard shouting in Italian, more gunshots, breaking glass. "The safe room," Victor directed. "Boss will meet us there." But they never made it to the safe room. 3 men appeared at the end of the corridor, weapons raised. Victor's team opened fire, and Jade found herself thrown to the ground, bodies shielding her as bullets shredded the walls. Then a voice cut through the chaos, cold, mocking, speaking English with a heavy Italian accent. "Where is Conti's little pet? We know she's here." Terror turned her blood to ice. They'd come for her. They'd known exactly where to find her. "Over my dead body," Victor snarled. "That can be arranged." More gunfire. Victor's men falling. Jade crawling backward, trying to find cover, her hands slipping on marble slick with blood. Then strong hands grabbed her from behind, dragging her backward through a hidden door she hadn't known existed. "Got you," a familiar voice whispered. Maximus. He pulled her into a narrow passageway, his body pressed against hers in the darkness. "Are you hurt?" His hands ran over her, checking for injuries. "No, Victor is handling it. We need to move." He took her hand, leading her through what felt like a maze of hidden corridors. "This leads to the garage. We're getting you out of here." "What about Marcus?" "Already evacuated with the household staff. He's safe." They emerged into the garage, where a single SUV waited with engine running. Maximus practically threw her into the back seat, barking orders to the driver. "Boss, you should—" the driver started. "Drive. Now." As they sped away from the estate, Jade twisted to look back. Flames licked at the east wing, and the sound of ongoing gunfire echoed through the night. "Your home can be rebuilt." Maximus pulled her against him, his heart hammering beneath her ear. "You can't." "Where are we going?" Somewhere they'll never find you. He pressed his lips to her hair. Somewhere we can start over. But your empire means nothing if you're dead. His arms tightened around her. I thought I had them all, Jade. I thought the threat was neutralized. But they had a contingency plan. This is my fault. If you hadn't walked into my life, I'd still be a man who only knew how to destroy. He tilted her face up, his eyes fierce in the darkness. You made me want to build something better, to be something better. That's not a weakness. It's the only thing that makes any of this worthwhile. The SUV merged onto the highway, leaving the burning estate behind, leaving everything Maximus had built and fought for behind. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be. He kissed her softly, tenderly. I'd burn it all down 1,000 times if it meant keeping you safe. That's what love is, Jade. It's choosing one person over everything else in the world. As dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Jade realized something profound. She'd spent her entire life trying to save others, her brother, her patients, anyone who needed help. But Maximus Conti had saved her in a way she'd never expected. Not by keeping her safe from physical danger, though he'd done that too, but by showing her that she deserved to be loved with the same fierce devotion she gave to others, that her strength didn't mean she had to carry every burden alone, that accepting help wasn't weakness. It was trust. Where are we going? She asked again. Wherever you want. He pulled her closer. As long as I'm with you, I don't care. And for the first time in months, maybe years, Jade let herself hope that everything might actually be okay. 3 years later, Marcus Freeman stood at his medical school graduation, scanning the crowd for his sister. He found her easily, impossible to miss in her elegant dress, sitting beside the man who'd once terrified him and now felt like family. Maximus Conti had been true to his word. He'd eliminated the Castellano threat completely, rebuilt his empire with legitimate business fronts, and stepped back from the violent world he'd once commanded. He still had power, still had influence, but now he wielded it through boardrooms and charity foundations rather than guns and fear. And he loved Jade with a devotion that Marcus had finally learned to respect. After the ceremony, they met outside the auditorium. Jade threw her arms around Marcus, tears streaming down her face. I'm so proud of you, she whispered. Mom would be so proud. I wouldn't be here without you. Marcus hugged her tight, then extended a hand to Maximus. Either of you. You did the work, Maximus said, shaking his hand firmly. We just made sure you had the chance. They walked together through the campus, talking about Marcus's residency program and his plans for the future. As they passed other families celebrating, no one would guess their complicated history. They looked like any other successful family, proud, happy, whole. Later that evening, back at the penthouse apartment that had replaced the burned estate, Jade stood on the balcony overlooking the city. Philadelphia glittered below, full of life and possibility. Arms wrapped around her waist, and Maximus's voice rumbled against her ear. What are you thinking about? How different everything is now. Better different? So much better. She turned in his arms, studying the face she'd come to know better than her own. The sharp angles had softened slightly over 3 years. The shadows in his eyes had lightened. He smiled more now, laughed easier. Do you miss it, your old life? Not for a second. He kissed her softly. Though I do miss having a mansion with 100 rooms. We have 4 bedrooms, that's plenty. For now. His hand drifted to her still flat stomach, his expression turning tender. But in about 7 months we might need to reconsider. Jade's breath caught. How did you... I notice everything, remember? His smile was brilliant, especially when it comes to you. I was going to surprise you at dinner tomorrow. Consider me surprised. He lifted her off her feet, spinning her around as she laughed, and deliriously happy. As he set her down, keeping her close, Jade thought about the terrified woman she'd been 3 years ago. The one who'd lowered her head in shame, expecting judgment and rejection. She'd found something else entirely. A love that empowered rather than diminished, a partner who challenged her to be brave, and a future full of possibilities she'd never imagined. I love you, she said simply. I love you more. He pressed his forehead to hers. Thank you for walking into my study that night. Thank you for being brave enough to stay. Thank you for showing me what it means to build instead of destroy. Thank you for seeing me, she whispered back, for really seeing me when I felt invisible. They stood together as the sun set over Philadelphia, two people who'd found each other in darkness and built something beautiful in the light. And somewhere in the city below, life continued, messy, complicated, and full of second chances for those brave enough to take them. This story has come to an end. If it touched your heart in any way, leave your like and share it with someone who also enjoys emotional stories. New stories coming soon. Until next time.